also makes me think that we should be looking more to the history of India for a sense of what we might call the secular law and order responsibilities of any government. And I know when I was working on Chaitanya Vaishnava religious society in Bengal, 16th century, the Sultanate period, I was struck by what I call an early kind of secularity that was found there, in which you have a lot of participation of Hindus in high responsible places and the like. Relatively secular, they didn't become the king, but they were very close to it. The king would protect their rights against others who wanted to stop it. And my sense is that throughout Indian history, we've had kinds of relative secular law and order, reasonably tolerant regimes. People often talk of the Mughals and how they worked it out. The Nawabs in Bengal were in some ways even more accommodating of Hindus within their scheme. You go back to Ashoka, you've got his grand Ashoka sense of tolerance. If we would do more study of the history in which the law and order, reasonably tolerant responsibility of government has been done in India, I think this might be a helpful way of just talking about secularity in a modern sense. We've got a modern version of continuing Indian.
There is no what I feel is that there is no comparison between pre-colonial, post-colonial government, because the concept of religious rights and protecting different religious communities, recognizing their rights, was alien to India. See, 1 minute. Let me respond. You were citing about Hindu kings
and the Buddhist Ashoka.
All
of whom were Indian.
Yeah. But a lot of that history is written in a certain particular language, which Satyanath was speaking now. It is in secularist language, and if you read that history, you feel that, oh yeah, these people protected these rights. But why up to 20th century, all these sites did not have any problem. The moment the government tries to enlist a particular religious place as a religious place, then you start getting problem. Why you don't have these problems during Mughal period or in the earlier periods? Because something has been added, which is adding to the conflict. That is the misplaced terminologies and concepts. So that is what is happening. Actually, yesterday in a whole platform debate, though the proponents of secularism did not accept that, but that is the crucial problem, to identify what is religious. See, unless and until you don't know the object you are speaking of. See, here in Bababudangiri, everyone is swearing in name of religion. Even Hindutva are also doing that, and secularists are doing that, government is doing that. No one knows how to categorize that particular tradition. If you call it Hindu or Muslim, whatever it may be. And the standard textbook history is right in those terms. Hindu temples or Muslim dargahs, see, in such ways. And that history has again, it has one of the reasons, it is one of the reasons why we think that that policy was there in India right from the beginning. It is not so.
Can I come back to your comment at the beginning of this particular statement, that prior to things, colonial governments were not in some way interested in religious differences? They obviously were. The Muslim community, from virtually the time of Prophet Muhammad, has been aware of different deen or different religious things. They have the arrangement of himar, or the contract, in dealing precisely with communities that it's not just a religious community, but communities that had a religious element were clearly identified. They had their leaders. They had to relate to the regime in a certain way. When Emperor Ashoka is talking about respect for different dharmas, he's talking about religion. There's a clear sense of it.
It was not right. It was not about right he was talking. No. Actually, yeah.
If I may just add to this point, I think there was the question of religious right and also the question of religious identity, because in Bengal there were cases of religious conversion having taken place and the Nawab interfering to say that this conversion could not take place. So I think this idea of religious concept and identity rights were
Yeah, how do you say that now, if Nawab interferes, how do you say that he interferes on the basis of certain concept of rights? Because traditional societies also, for an Indian tradition, say that there are many ways to attain this fulfillment. So other traditions, for example, they have their own way, we have our own way. Do you mean to say that they are recognizing the religious rights of other traditions?
No,
Not
very
like
often.
that. So see, my point is that, okay, let us leave it like that. But one should answer why all these traditions, you call syncretic or multiple or mixture of traditions, where they coexisted, whether it is Mughal period or Ashoka's period, why they become conflicting places in 20th century? One has to answer this. Otherwise, we have to relook at the history. See,
It wasn't all peace.
yeah, because practically people were living together. Why they are practically now fighting each
No,
other?
I
See,
think there was
that you have to
coexistence,
explain.
there was tolerance, but there was also persecution.
Yeah, okay. But they were there, of course, there were fights, they were all human beings, we don't deny that. Traditions are, but not in these terms. Here a state is there, and it is complicating. See, in this particular example, the state involvement with all full good this thing, intentions and intentions of justice, but it cannot provide justice because some alien concepts are brought to those traditions. Why don't you see it as a tradition? Why do you see it, why are you forced to see it as a Hindu-Muslim coming together? Because you cannot enact your secular policies there.
No, I agree with you that instead of seeing them as religions, we could possibly see them as traditions. But then we have had conflicts within religions.
Yeah, that was there.
Traditions
But
also.
we had tradition of conflict resolution also. Never before India was being divided into such two communities or people, that movements for emancipating some religions, all such things were not known. They were
I
local.
think there were. I think we must do more religious history and see how communal religious differences took place.
Why there was no?
Say the case
Answer me. Why there was no Hindutva movement in Mughal period or 12th century? Why it should be in modern period?
The conflicts between Vaishnavites and Shaivites, the conflict between different matas, there are lots of such conflicts. In any society has to have such kind of conflicts. Our argument is that there were conflicts, and there were also some mechanisms of resolving the conflict. We have absolutely no clue about it today, because we see those conflicts in terms of the modern concepts of religious concepts. That is the problem. We don't argue that there are no conflicts. There are hundreds of conflicts, and we don't argue that everything was just before colonialism and everything collapsed after the colonialism. It is not that. There are many unjust practices, there are many such things, and there are many rivalries between communities, but there are also certain mechanisms for solving those rivalries. But once you start looking at those conflicts as religious conflicts, then we will not be able to comprehend what was really happening then. This is our argument.
As an anthropologist, I was very struck by the richness of the ethnographic data. I think your material, your research and the paper presented really sort of sound, easy way for us to grasp how certain concepts are very much problematic. Religion, secularism, Hindu, Muslim, what are the boundaries of these concepts? They are definitely not rigid, never were. And the insistence by the state, as defined as a secular state or whatever, to have or want to define boundaries, not only does it obviously incite all these unexpected sort of contentions, it promotes ways and means that clearly don't allow for a more peaceable sort of situation. So I was very, very struck by yet another good on-the-ground example of how people live is not quite how the state wants them to be.